freedom is often misunderstood as the mere absence of suffering, a state of complete ease and peace where no pain exists. But true freedom, as Viktor Frankl proposed, is not found in the absence of pain. It is found in the way we respond to it. We cannot control the suffering that life throws at us, whether it's the loss of a loved one, the weight of failure, or the torment of illness. However, what we can control is our reaction to that suffering. Freedom lies in our ability to choose how we will meet each painful moment. It's within this choice that our power resides, and this is the essence of true freedom. Pain is an inevitable part of the human experience, but how we choose to live with that pain, how we rise above it, shapes our experience of life. In the face of suffering, we often feel helpless, as though we are being swept away by forces beyond our control. But Frankl's experience in the concentration camps taught him that, no matter the external circumstances, we still have the ability to make an inner choice. We may be stripped of everything else, our belongings, our comfort, our dignity, but we can never be stripped of our ability to choose how we respond to what life offers us. This freedom is a spiritual one, a psychological one, and it lies in our attitude. The choice to rise above suffering, to face each day with courage, is a power that can never be taken from us. The ability to find meaning in suffering, or to simply endure it with grace, is a choice that redefines the experience of pain. Pain, then, is not a force that diminishes us, but rather a force that challenges us to dig deeper into ourselves. Frankl believed that suffering could be a catalyst for growth, if only we allowed it to be. In each moment of pain, we face a crossroads. We can succumb to despair, bitterness, and helplessness, or we can choose to look for meaning, to learn something about ourselves that we would not have discovered otherwise. This is the moment where true freedom lies. It's not in escaping the pain, but in embracing the responsibility of choosing how we respond to it. When we choose to respond with courage and purpose, we reclaim our freedom, and in doing so, we find that pain loses its power over us. What Frankl discovered through his harrowing experiences was that even in the most unimaginable suffering, we still possess the ability to choose our attitude. He found freedom within the confines of a concentration camp, a place where every physical freedom was stripped away. And yet, even in such dire circumstances, he realized that the one thing they could not take from him was his ability to choose how he saw the world. This, he realized, is where true freedom is found. It's not in the circumstances that surround us, but in the way we engage with them. The power of this freedom is not just in overcoming pain, but in redefining what that pain means. We may not control what happens to us, but we always control how we face what happens. We are not born with the ability to endure pain effortlessly. It is something that we develop over time, through practice and through the deliberate choice to face hardship rather than run from it. When we choose to meet our suffering head on, we begin to uncover a strength within ourselves that we didn't know existed. In that sense, suffering can become a teacher. It can show us who we truly are, beneath the surface of comfort and ease. And in that discovery, we unlock a kind of freedom that is not contingent on external circumstances. This freedom is the result of an internal shift, a decision to find meaning in suffering rather than to be crushed by it. True freedom, then, is not found in the avoidance of pain, but in the ability to choose our path through it. When we choose to approach suffering with an open heart, seeking meaning or growth, we transform our experience of it. Pain ceases to be an enemy and instead becomes a partner in our journey. It teaches us resilience, patience, and an unwavering connection to the present moment. This shift in perspective is powerful because it allows us to transcend the suffering itself. We are no longer victims of our circumstances, but active participants in the story of our lives. Our power lies not in avoiding pain, but in our ability to choose what we make of it. There are moments when pain seems overwhelming, when the weight of it feels like it will crush us. But even in these moments, we have the ability to create space between the pain and our response to it. This space is where true freedom resides. It is the moment of choice, the moment where we decide whether we will succumb to despair or whether we will rise above it. Frankl's profound insight was that we are never truly bound by our circumstances, no matter how extreme. The real chains are those we place on ourselves by surrendering to the belief that we are powerless. True freedom, then, lies in breaking free from these self-imposed limitations. In the end, pain may be an inevitable part of life, but it does not have to define us. The real definition of freedom is not the absence of pain, but the ability to choose our response to it. When we learn to exercise this freedom, we begin to reclaim our power. Every moment of suffering becomes an opportunity for growth, for strength, and for meaning. By choosing how we respond to pain, we transcend it, and in doing so, we find a freedom that no external force can take away. This is the essence of Viktor Frankl's philosophy, the ability to choose, to find meaning, and to rise above the suffering we fear. When we encounter pain and adversity, it often feels as though we are trapped in a situation with no way out, a situation where suffering is the only reality we can see. But Viktor Frankl's profound insight was that suffering itself is not meaningless. In fact, suffering can offer us the deepest sense of meaning, provided we are open to finding it. It is through adversity that we often discover what is most important to us, our values, our purpose, and our potential. The pain we fear is not just something to endure, it is something to be understood. When we approach suffering with the belief that it can reveal something deeper about ourselves, we begin to find the hidden meaning in the very things that hurt us. Frankl experienced this truth firsthand in the concentration camps, where each day brought immense suffering. Yet he found that the pain he faced had the potential to serve as a teacher, guiding him toward a deeper understanding of his life's purpose. In our own lives, we often resist suffering because it feels unbearable. We wish for life to be easy, comfortable, and predictable. But Frankl's experience taught him that it is precisely through the greatest suffering that we can uncover the most profound layers of meaning. He wrote in Man's Search for Meaning that even in the face of unimaginable hardship, we have the capacity to choose how we respond. The search for meaning is not about avoiding pain. It is about finding purpose in the midst of it. When we resist pain, we often miss the opportunity to learn from it. But when we approach suffering with a mindset that there is something to be learned, we allow it to become a pathway to greater understanding and growth. This is where the true power of meaning lies, in the ability to find it even when life seems cruel and harsh. Suffering does not always make sense in the moment. It often feels random, senseless, and unfair. But Frankl believed that even in suffering, we have the potential to find purpose. The key lies in the way we view the situation. We can see suffering as a random event, something that has no rhyme or reason, or we can choose to view it as a challenge that carries with it the possibility of deep transformative meaning. Frankl's time in the concentration camps revealed to him that those who were able to endure were not necessarily the ones who had the greatest physical strength, but those who had a reason to live. This reason was often rooted in their ability to find meaning in their suffering, even if that meaning was simply the hope of helping others or holding onto a future vision of freedom. The capacity to find meaning in adversity is a profound aspect of the human spirit. Our modern world often tries to shield us from pain, promoting comfort and instant gratification as the ultimate goals. Yet, this quest for comfort can be an obstacle to personal growth. Pain, as uncomfortable as it is, pushes us beyond our limits. It is through the struggle that we become stronger, more resilient, and more compassionate. Frankl's insights suggest that suffering is not only inevitable but necessary for our development. It forces us to confront parts of ourselves that we may not otherwise acknowledge. When life is easy, we often drift without purpose, but when faced with challenges, we are forced to confront our deepest fears and desires. In this way, suffering becomes a tool for self-discovery. We are given the opportunity to find out who we truly are and what we are capable of when we no longer have the luxury of avoiding discomfort. Frankl's philosophy emphasizes that meaning is not something that is handed to us. It is something we must actively search for. And this search for meaning is often most evident when we are suffering. We cannot wait for suffering to make sense to us. Instead, we must make the choice to search for meaning in the suffering. In this process, we may discover a deeper connection to our own humanity. The suffering we endure can be a mirror that reflects our true selves, revealing our strengths, vulnerabilities, and the things that truly matter to us. This connection to meaning can provide us with the courage and resilience to face even the most difficult challenges. It gives us a reason to keep going when we feel like giving up. It transforms our pain from something that diminishes us into something that propels us forward. It's easy to become consumed by the pain itself, to allow it to define us and cloud our vision. But Frankl teaches us that suffering, when approached with the right mindset, can lead to the discovery of a life that is more meaningful than we could have imagined. Instead of seeing pain as something that diminishes our value, we can begin to see it as something that calls us to rise above our circumstances. When we find meaning in our suffering, we regain our sense of power. We are no longer at the mercy of our pain, but are empowered by the ability to shape its meaning. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It requires patience, introspection, and a willingness to challenge our assumptions about what suffering means. But over time, we learn to see pain as an opportunity to deepen our connection to our own purpose. This search for meaning in suffering is not a passive process. It requires active engagement with the pain. It requires a willingness to confront our fears, our losses, and our vulnerabilities head on. Frankl's life was a testament to this. He found that even in the most unimaginable suffering, he could choose to find meaning, and in doing so, he preserved his inner freedom. We too have this capacity. The pain we fear can become the doorway through which we discover our truest selves. It is not in avoiding the pain that we grow, but in meeting it with courage and the determination to find something meaningful in it. Suffering can teach us about our resilience, our capacity for love, and our ability to endure. The search for meaning is not a passive journey, nor is it something that comes easily or without effort. It requires an active and deliberate choice to face hardship head on, to confront suffering with an open heart, and to seek purpose even in the darkest of times. Viktor Frankl's experiences in the concentration camps revealed that this search is not a luxury or an idealistic notion, but a necessity for survival. Those who were able to find meaning even in their suffering were the ones who endured. Meaning is not something that is handed to us by life, nor is it something that comes naturally. It must be actively sought, even in the most dire circumstances. The courage to search for meaning, to look beyond the immediate pain, is what distinguishes those who survive from those who succumb to despair. When we encounter suffering, we often wish for it to end, to be released from its grip. However, Frankl's philosophy suggests that suffering itself can be the very thing that leads us to a deeper understanding of who we are and what we stand for. The search for meaning is not simply a mental exercise or a philosophical idea. It is a call to action. It is the process of deciding in each painful moment to choose how we respond. We may not have control over the suffering itself, but we always have the ability to control our response. This act of choice, this decision to search for meaning rather than wallow in despair, is the essence of the human spirit. It is what allows us to transcend suffering and find freedom even in the midst of pain. Meaning is not something that can be forced or manufactured. It is something that reveals itself gradually, often when we least expect it. It is found not in escaping from hardship, but in facing it with courage and an open mind. The search for meaning requires vulnerability. It requires us to allow ourselves to be changed by our experiences, to let them shape us rather than break us. Frankl believed that even in the worst circumstances, there is a deeper meaning to be found. For him, meaning was often found in the small acts of defiance against the cruelty of the world, in a moment of kindness, in the will to survive, or in the hope that one day things would change. It is these moments that carry meaning, not the absence of pain or difficulty. The search for meaning in suffering is, therefore, not about avoiding pain, but about transforming it. What often holds us back from searching for meaning is our fear of confronting the very pain that challenges us. We are often afraid that if we look too deeply into our suffering, we will be overwhelmed by it. But Frankl teaches us that it is precisely by confronting our suffering that we discover the greatest truths about ourselves. We cannot escape pain without losing a part of ourselves in the process. When we run from suffering, we lose the opportunity to learn from it, to grow through it. In contrast, when we choose to face pain directly and ask ourselves what it can teach us, we gain a new perspective. This process requires patience and resilience, but it also leads to an understanding of our own strength, our capacity for love, and our ability to endure. The search for meaning is not a solitary endeavor. It often requires connection with others. Frankl found that even in the concentration camps, the moments that carried the most profound meaning were those shared with others. Whether it was the act of sharing a brief conversation with a fellow prisoner, or the love that one person was able to offer to another, these connections were powerful sources of meaning. We often think that meaning is something we find within ourselves, but in truth, it is found in our relationships with others. The suffering we experience becomes less isolating when we find ways to share it, to connect with others who are also struggling. It is through these shared experiences that we often find a deeper understanding of our own pain. Meaning is woven into the fabric of human connection, and it is in helping others that we often help ourselves. Meaning does not have to be grand or monumental to be powerful. We tend to think that our lives must have some great overarching purpose in order to be meaningful. But Frankl teaches us that meaning can be found in the small, everyday acts of life. It can be found in our work, in the way we treat others, and in how we choose to spend our time. Frankl himself found meaning in the simple act of writing, of sharing his experiences with others, and of offering a message of hope to those who needed it most. Meaning is not reserved for the extraordinary moments of life. It is present in the everyday choices we make. The search for meaning, then, is not about waiting for some grand revelation, but about actively seeking purpose in the ordinary moments of our lives. In our modern world, we are often conditioned to avoid pain and seek comfort at all costs. But Frankl's insights suggest that this approach, while understandable, is ultimately limiting. We are not truly free when we avoid suffering, we are bound by it. True freedom comes from the ability to choose how we respond to suffering, to decide whether we will let it define us or whether we will find meaning in it. The search for meaning, then, is a transformative process. It does not simply help us survive the pain, it helps us transcend it. It allows us to move beyond our immediate circumstances and tap into a deeper sense of purpose that can carry us through even the darkest times. The search for meaning is also an ongoing process, one that never truly ends. As we move through life, we continue to face new challenges, new opportunities, and new forms of suffering. Each experience is a chance to discover new layers of meaning, new aspects of ourselves, and new ways to grow. The process of searching for meaning is not something that can be completed in a single moment or even a single lifetime. It is a lifelong journey, one that requires us to remain open, to stay engaged with the world around us, and to continuously seek purpose in everything we do. Even when we think we have found meaning, life has a way of presenting new challenges that force us to reevaluate, to dig deeper, and to discover new sources of meaning in our lives. Ultimately, the search for meaning is what gives our lives direction. It is the compass by which we navigate the storms of life. Without meaning, we are left adrift, unable to make sense of our experiences. But when we find meaning, we find a sense of purpose that can sustain us even in the most difficult of circumstances. The search for meaning, therefore, is not just an individual pursuit. It is a collective one. As human beings, we are all searching for meaning in our lives, and by sharing this search with others, we create a sense of community and shared purpose. It is this shared pursuit of meaning that connects us, that gives us the strength to face life's challenges together. Suffering, in its many forms, is often perceived as something to avoid at all costs. It is seen as a burden, something that diminishes us and makes life less worth living. However, Viktor Frankl's perspective on suffering offers a radically different approach. Rather than something to escape, suffering can be the gateway to transformation. Frankl's own experience in the concentration camps demonstrated that those who survived were not simply those who endured physical pain, but those who were able to find meaning within their suffering. The ability to confront suffering head-on, to find purpose in it, is what allowed them to transcend it. Suffering, then, is not the end of the road. It can be the beginning of a profound transformation that allows us to evolve into the best version of ourselves. One of the most important insights Frankl shared was that suffering, when faced with the right mindset, has the potential to reveal deep personal strength. It is easy to believe that pain weakens us, that it diminishes our ability to live fully. But Frankl believed that suffering, while undeniably difficult, also has the power to bring out qualities in us that we may not have known we possessed. The human spirit has an incredible capacity for resilience. When we face suffering, we are forced to dig deep within ourselves and find the strength to carry on. This process of digging deeper, of tapping into inner reserves of strength, is what allows us to transcend the suffering we endure. Suffering becomes not a limit, but a catalyst for uncovering our own potential and expanding our capacity for endurance, love, and compassion. The process of transformation through suffering is not immediate. It takes time, patience, and a willingness to confront the pain head on. Frankl understood that in order for suffering to lead to growth, we must actively choose to engage with it. This engagement doesn't mean that we simply accept suffering passively, but that we approach it with an open heart, with a willingness to understand it and learn from it. This attitude toward suffering is what allows us to move from victimhood to empowerment. When we understand that suffering has the potential to change us, we no longer view it as something that happens to us, but as something that happens for us. It's a challenge to be met, a process through which we can become stronger, more capable, and more connected to our purpose in life. It is important to note that transformation through suffering doesn't require us to erase or get rid of the pain. This is often a misconception. We may never fully escape the impact of the suffering we endure. However, Frankl's insight was that suffering itself doesn't have to define us or diminish us. Instead, it can serve as the crucible in which our deepest qualities are forged. The act of transforming suffering into something meaningful is an internal process that alters the way we view the pain we face. We are not controlled by the suffering itself. We are empowered by our ability to create meaning out of it. This internal shift allows us to transcend the pain and gain freedom from its grip, even while we continue to experience it. The idea that suffering can be a gateway to transformation is not meant to romanticize pain or suggest that it should be sought out. It is a recognition that pain is inevitable, but that we have the power to choose how we experience it. When we face suffering with the belief that it can lead to something greater, we shift our mindset from helplessness to agency. This shift in perspective is crucial because it opens the door to personal growth. Instead of being crushed under the weight of pain, we become active participants in our own transformation. We begin to understand that suffering is not a dead end road, but a pathway that can lead us to greater wisdom, inner peace, and a more meaningful life. Frankl's experiences in the concentration camps illuminated the power of meaning in transforming suffering. For him, it was not the physical conditions that determined his survival, but his ability to find meaning in his suffering. This is one of the most profound lessons he left behind. Suffering becomes a powerful force for personal transformation when it is given meaning. This meaning may come from our relationships, our work, or our hope for a better future, but it is always there, waiting to be uncovered. When we can locate meaning within suffering, we gain the strength to endure and even thrive in the face of hardship. This act of finding meaning is what allows suffering to become a transformative force rather than a force that simply diminishes us. The transformation through suffering is not a one-time event, but a continual process. As we go through life, we encounter new forms of suffering, new challenges that test our limits. Each time we face pain, we have the opportunity to choose whether we will allow it to defeat us or whether we will allow it to transform us. In this way, suffering becomes an ongoing process of personal development. Each new hardship is an invitation to grow, to learn, and to become more fully ourselves. Over time, the more we confront suffering with a mindset of transformation, the more we discover about our own strength and resilience. The process of transformation becomes ingrained in us, and we become more adept at finding meaning in adversity. Another key aspect of suffering as a gateway to transformation is that it often leads to greater empathy for others. When we experience pain ourselves, we develop a deeper understanding of the pain others are going through. This empathy allows us to connect with others on a more profound level and offer them the support and compassion that they need. In this way, suffering not only transforms us, but also deepens our relationships with others. The shared experience of suffering creates bonds of understanding and solidarity that would not be possible without it. By transforming our own suffering, we become better equipped to help others through their own pain, creating a cycle of compassion and support. Finally, the transformation that comes through suffering often results in a renewed sense of purpose. When we face pain and find meaning within it, we often emerge from the experience with a clearer understanding of what is truly important in our lives. Suffering forces us to confront the transient nature of life, to examine our priorities and values. In the process, we often discover what we truly want to live for, whether it's the pursuit of a dream, the desire to help others, or the drive to create something of lasting value. Suffering, then, not only transforms us internally, but also redirects our energy outward, towards something greater than ourselves. This renewed sense of purpose gives us the motivation to move forward, to continue living with passion and intention, no matter the difficulties that lie ahead. The journey through suffering, though challenging and often overwhelming, carries within it the seeds of transformation. As Viktor Frankl teaches us, it is not suffering itself that defines our lives, but how we choose to respond to it. The meaning we derive from our pain becomes the very force that shapes our future, molding us into more resilient, compassionate, and purposeful individuals. When we face pain with courage and a willingness to learn from it, we transcend its grip and unlock the freedom that lies beyond it. True freedom, Frankl suggests, is not the absence of suffering, but the ability to choose how we navigate through it, finding purpose even in the most trying of circumstances. The process of transformation is not easy or immediate, but it is real and profound. It requires introspection, patience, and a commitment to continually search for meaning in the face of adversity. The human spirit is capable of remarkable resilience, and it is through the struggle that we often discover our deepest strength. Every hardship carries the potential to reveal something valuable about who we are and what we stand for. By choosing to engage with suffering rather than running from it, we allow ourselves to grow and evolve, to reach heights of understanding and compassion we never thought possible. As we move through life, we must remember that suffering is not something to be feared or avoided, but something to be understood and embraced. It is a force that can guide us toward greater self-awareness and connection to others. The ability to find meaning in suffering is what separates the fleeting moments of pain from the lasting wisdom that can emerge from those moments. By transforming our suffering, we move beyond its limitations, stepping into a life that is richer, more purposeful, and more deeply aligned with our true selves. This journey, though personal, is one that we share with others. The empathy and understanding we gain from our own experiences of pain enable us to support others who are suffering. Through shared struggle, we can create a community that uplifts, supports, and transforms together. In helping others navigate their own pain, we often find our own sense of purpose and meaning. This interconnectedness, our shared human experience, becomes a source of strength, reminding us that we are never truly alone in our struggles. Ultimately, the search for meaning in suffering is not about achieving perfection or escaping pain altogether. It is about embracing the fullness of life, with all its challenges and triumphs, and choosing to find purpose in each moment. The transformation that comes through suffering is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, and it is this resilience that allows us to rise above the pain we face, to move forward with renewed strength, and to live lives of true freedom.